Today our morning blessing comes from Psalm chapter 19, verse 7 and 8. God's laws are perfect. They protect us, make us wise, and give us joy and light. God's laws are pure, eternal, just. They are more desirable than gold. They are sweeter than honey dripping from a honeycomb. For they warn us away from harm and give success to those who obey Him. So if we obey God's laws, we'll be turned away from harm, and you'll give success to those who obey Him. So what does God want us to obey? We can turn over to John 13:34. John chapter 13, verse 34. And this is Jesus talking when He says, I am giving a new commandment to you now. Love each other just as much as I love you. Your strong love for each other will prove to the world that you are my disciples. So the strong love for each other is what shows the world that we're different. And again in John 14, chapter 14, verse 21, we come over here and we see the one who obeys me is the one who loves me. And because he loves me, my Father will love him, and I will too, and I will reveal myself to him. So that's interesting. So when we obey God and we love each other, then God will begin to reveal Himself to us. Well, that's interesting. So what kind of love does God want us to do with each other? How do I love God's way? We can turn over here to 1 Corinthians 13. 1 Corinthians 13. And if we come down here to verse 4, we can see this is the definition of love that God wants us to use. Love is very patient and kind, never jealous or envious, never boastful or proud, never haughty or selfish or rude. Love does not demand its own way. It's not irritable or touchy. It does not hold grudges and will hardly even notice when others do it wrong. It's never glad about injustice, but rejoices whenever truth wins out. If you love someone, you will be loyal to him no matter what the cost. You will always believe in them, always expect the best of them, and always stand your ground in defending them. All those special gifts and powers from God will someday come to an end, but love goes on forever. So God wants us to love, and love never ends. He sums it up at the end of the chapter with there are 3 things that remain: faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. So God tells us how He wants us to love. He tells us that it goes on forever, and He tells us that it is the greatest of all things. Well, that's interesting. And the more that we do this, He will continue to reveal Himself to us. So if we look over one more to 1 John 4, that's interesting because it tells us here, 1 John 4, and we're at verse 7, Dear friends, let us practice loving each other, for love comes from God, and those who are loving and kind show that they are the children of God, and they that are getting to know Him better. But if a person isn't loving and kind, it shows that he doesn't know God, for God is love. So even by reading this, we realize that God is love, which is why He told us over here in 1 Corinthians that love goes on forever. And up here when He summarized it, He said that the greatest of these is love. So God is talking about Himself, and He's describing Himself in the kind of love He wants us to do. So the next time that you want to know more about God, then just practice being more loving and kind. He'll begin to reveal more of Himself to you. And that is always a good thing that gives you success in life and warns you away from harm. See you tomorrow for tomorrow's blessing. Shalom.